Hello, welcome to Video Mania 2. I'm the dude manning the counter, Duncan, and today we're going to talk about some martial arts classics. American Ninja 1 and 2. There were 4 of them, but we're going to talk about 1 and 2 today. And let's talk about the first American Ninja. You see it right here. It's part of Martial Arts Fun Pack a friend of mine got me. And American Ninja is directed by Sam Furstenberg, produced by Cannon Films, and it stars Michael Dudikoff and Steve James and Judy Aronson. The movie is pretty simple in terms of storytelling and the martial arts. Looks good, but it's not like what you would see in John Wick today. So, you know, it's a little slower moving, but it looks good. And when I first saw this movie, I remember I was a kid in New Jersey, and WPIX Channel 11, the New York affiliate, used to run it all the time. And one time I got home from school and I saw a little commercial, tonight at 8 o'clock, American Ninja. And I was like, that looks pretty cool. So I tuned in that night. And from then on, I was hooked into martial arts movies. This was the one that really started it for me. A lot of people have Bruce Lee or, Chuck Norris and all that. But this is the one that started it for me. And this was at the height of the 80s ninja craze. And Cannon Films was at the forefront of that. So without further ado, let's get into the movie itself. Now, the movie takes place in the jungle, and Michael Dudikoff plays Joe Armstrong. And before we get into the part of Joe, let's get into the part of Joe Armstrong. This movie was actually a vehicle. It was intended to be for Chuck Norris, because Cannon Films back then, they kind of had this formula, the two Chucks, Charles Bronson and Chuck Norris. And they had a pile of scripts for Bronson, they had a pile of scripts for Norris. But Chuck Norris was not that interested in this movie. He was a little bit older for the part, and I supposedly, according to rumors, I can't confirm this, that he wasn't that wild about wearing a mask for the final climactic battle. So they auditioned a bunch of younger people, and they came across Dudikoff, who, he didn't have much screen credits other than Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks. And they got him because he was strong, silent type, he was athletic, he could pick up the moves. And so the movie starts out in the jungle, like I said, and Joe Armstrong, it's kind of like The Bourne Identity in a way, is he had a childhood accident, but he knows all these crazy ninja moves, and he doesn't know why, he just knows them. And there was a conflict that he breaks up in the jungles, and he stops a rebel force from taking military weapons because he's with the army. But he still has no idea who he is or where his place in this world is. And Jackson, who is a martial artist himself, played by the late Steve James, who's awesome in this role. He was a great talent. And, at first he confronts Joe, and then Joe handles him pretty easily, and Jackson's really tough, and he's like, okay, where did you come from? Because you are too good. And so they start on a journey together, and they develop a friendship. And there's some sinister forces at work. There's a guy named Ortega who owns a plantation across the island, and he's stealing military weapons to sell to rebels, and he's really just profiting off conflict and not really the greatest guy. And Joe kind of stumbles upon this. And he discovers himself when his old master who taught him as a kid actually works for Ortega, but no one knows that. And he learns his place and why he's a ninja, and he takes his place on the field of honor. And this movie has sword fights and gunplay and has stunts. Michael Dudikoff did most of his stunts. He really got in there. And I did a live chat with Judy Aronson on Facebook, and she answered a lot of questions about American Ninja because that was one of her most famous roles. And she said there was a strong friendship on set, and the vibe was really fun. I got to ask her about that, and a lot of other people asked her about it. And she's friends with Michael Dudikoff to this day, so there was a strong friendship on set. And it translates on screen, you can see that. And the movie really hooked me, and that's where I really became a martial arts fan, because this thing ran on Channel 11 and all the local affiliates in New Jersey, and it was in the rental stores. It was, for an 11-year-old kid, this was like, wow. You know, I'd never seen anything. And ninjas were still really popular for many years after 1985 when this came out. So that really solidified it for me for B-movie martial arts fun. This was the foundation for me. Now, let's talk about the sequel. This is part of another fun pack I got. American Ninja 2 is on another island in the Caribbean. And Joe Armstrong and Jackson return, and Michael Dudikoff and Steve James respectively. And the formula is very similar to the first one, but the fun factor is turned way up, and there's this powerful drug lord called the Lion who has a secret island lair. And it turns out he's engineering these ninjas. And they are both part of the Army, and they're sent to the Marine base, so that kind of leads to some awkward moments between the Marines and the two Army Rangers, Armstrong and Jackson. But they soon discover why some Marines have been turning up missing and what's been going on. And so Joe Armstrong, who now fully knows who he is, you know, he takes on the biologically engineered ninjas rather easily, and Jackson helps him. And, you know, as I said, this formula is very similar, you know, but this one seemed like it had a bigger production budget and more stunts and stuff. So everybody is real comfortable in the roles. It's a sequel that builds on the first and still has that fun that we all love. I used to have old VHS of both of these tapes, and I wore them out. So American Ninja 2, you know, they have a big climax at the island lair, and there's a master ninja who trains all the engineered ones, and so Joe Armstrong must confront him. And, you know, he leads the Marines into the base, and that leads to a big climactic battle. So everyone, like even Sam Furstenberg, returned to direct, and you could see the comfort level everybody has with each other, and it really translates on screen for a lot of 80s ninja fun. So that pretty much wraps up. I give them both 5 stars. And if you're looking for a fun movie that was a product of its time, they're both available to stream for free on Tubi. So you can, both are about an hour and a half, so it won't take up much of your time. And Tubi's a great streaming service. They have a lot of good stuff. They have a few ads, but for the most part, they have pretty good streaming. And it's completely legal and completely free. So I suggest you check them out. They really laid down the foundation for me. And let me know in the comments if you miss these kind of movies, or are you interested in revisiting them? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week, and we will talk about 3 and 4. So take care till next time.